Okay, I think we can start with a small introduction of our speaker today. And yeah, in the meantime, people can join in. So yeah, we have a very special guest with us today, Jasleen Kaur. She's the lead e-commerce sales at the Kraft Heinz company, and she's joining us all the way from North Carolina, US. And Jasleen is managing customer relationships, also looking into market share performance, digital marketing strategies and execution, and also leading a very high performance team at Kraft Heinz. And prior to this, she was also handling the product portfolio at Lenovo as an e-commerce business manager. And with over 9 years of experience in this domain, she has joined us today to share her insights on how e-commerce grocery continues to grow as brands deploy digital strategies to reach their consumers. And yeah, she will be presenting her insights over the next couple of minutes. So if anyone has any questions while she's presenting,
call will be recorded.
You can use the chat box. Feel free to use the chat box, and yeah, Jasleen will get back to it right after the presentation. Over to you, Jasleen.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. So hi everyone. Extremely excited to be here with you all today. Hope you all and your family and loved ones are safe and healthy. These are some truly unprecedented times that has tested a lot of us and at the same time brought us all closer to each other and made us more empathetic towards others. So I just wanted to mention that before we actually jump into talking about grocery and e-commerce and everything about it. And before I start sharing my screen, just want to thank Ria and Rishika and the team here at Mason to welcome me to talk about this topic and for their kind words on my introduction. But I should caution you, I am no expert. I do have experience in e-com selling groceries online. So the content that I present today is my perspective, my point of view on the potential growth opportunities in this world. All right, so I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Ria, can you enable screen sharing for me?
Yeah, Rish, are you there? Just a second. I think Rish should be able to do it.
By the way, thanks everyone for taking time on a Friday evening. It's tough, but I appreciate you all jumping on this call. So thank you.
Jasleen, can you give it a try now?
Still disabled.
Oh, okay. There's some issue. Just quickly check this.
I can share now. Okay. Do you see one screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I think I gave a quick intro on what we're talking about today, and just, again, Ria did a good job introducing me, but again, I'm Jasleen Kaur here working in e-com sales at Kraft Heinz, where I lead the e-com sales for one of our national retailers in US. And previously I worked at Lenovo, a completely different industry of consumer electronics, where I spent some good time in the D2C space. So always curious to learn more about e-commerce, and would excited to hear from some of you, to hear some of the questions that may come across, and hopefully I can answer those in the call today. So why do we care about e-grocery? Why is this a topic? The next few slides will share some numbers that will help paint the picture. Okay, so at the onset of COVID-19 in April 2022, you all are probably aware there were many businesses that plummeted, but e-commerce was the one place where we saw skyrocketed growth, the one that could not even meet consumer demand. And in all of this, food and beverage industry, particularly packaged cross-section of e-com, pickup and delivery was needed more than ever. Now, digital penetration is a highly referred metric in e-grocery, and it's simply a percentage of online sales to total store sales. And we saw this number tripled over a period of 6 weeks. So let me ask you all, either with a show of hands or nods if your cameras are on, or just putting into chat, just get some kind of response from you. If you've ever actually utilized online pickup or delivery or even ship to home, last mile Amazon type business model for buying groceries ever. Not seeing a lot of nods. Okay, I see some hands raised. That's good. Okay, good. So, how many hands do I see? I see 4 hands up. So not as, not as many as I'd hoped, but not surprised either. In US, we saw, or we're seeing that more than half of the US population is going to make at least one digital grocery order in 2022. So this is not shoppers, this is not grocery buyers, this is literally the US population. So looking at that, it's a pretty big number. You know, buying groceries has been a big hesitation for consumers because they don't trust the person who's picking up their produce, their fruits and vegetables. But roughly half of the consumers have got past that, or half of the population has got past that, and they have made an effort to try this. So a lot of opportunity. This next slide is, again, talking about penetration. We talked about this 2 slides back. What some of the companies like Mercatus are predicting is that online grocery will account for roughly 22% of total US grocery sales by 2025. Now that raises a simple but obvious question. Are companies, both retailers and CPGs, are they ready to handle this demand and traffic? Do they have the right infrastructure? Are they innovating fast enough? Many other questions. So before we dive deeper into the specific problems and how the future looks like, I want to do a quick guessing game to ingest some more data that I have here, but in a way that hopefully sticks with you all by the time we leave this call. And, you know, if you think about this meeting, at least some of those numbers will stick. So again, use your chat box to respond. I have some options, A, B, C, D, but just let's make it a guessing game. So first, how many American shoppers, what percentage of American shoppers, not the population, shoppers, bought grocery online in 2022? So 4 options out there, pretty close numbers, but any wild guesses, or just someone has searched fast enough? Feel free to use mic too if you wanna.
We've got a mix of responses actually on chat.
Oh, okay. Okay. I can't see the chat, so Ria, you might have to. Yeah.
Mostly it's B and C, and also D. Okay, mostly B and C. Okay.
B is, yeah, those 2 numbers were pretty close, but I think you're tracking it right. 40% of American shoppers bought grocery online in 2020. That is last year when we saw the spike. Next question. In 2021, so the year we are in, grocery e-commerce will make up X% of US e-commerce sales. So we're just looking at the online space. How much of that do you think will be grocery e-commerce? Again, very close numbers. I should have put them like 8, 20, 100, but wanted to make it a little difficult for you guys. Ria, do you want to tell me like what are the numbers trending?
It's
mixed.
It's C right now. Mostly C.
Okay.
And there's a D as well. Okay.
Oh. 12% is whoever guessed that, or even C would be pretty close. So 12.4% to be exact of the total e-commerce sales is grocery in 2021 in US. Just two more questions. Next one, in 2021, the year we are in, online grocery will surpass X billion dollars in US. I'll give you a hint. Let's be conservative for this one.
Actually, they have, but A, B, C, and D. We have got a mix of all four.
Okay, so this was definitely not the best options I came up with, but let's see what the answer is. 100. So in 2020, it was $96 billion of money floating around in the US market coming out of groceries, online grocery sales. And in 2021, it's going to surpass 100. It's going to be 109-ish. So close to 110, but yeah. So people who got B could also were pretty close. And the last one, I think this may be close to some of the work that a lot of folks here are doing. Maybe, I'm guessing. But one of the things that we look at also is stock, in stock, online, and everything around stock. So we try to pull some numbers from a tool called Profitero. And we wanted to understand what is the potential sales decline in percentage on Amazon when in-stock rate drops from 90% to less than 30%. Essentially, I believe by Amazon grocery logic, they would remove any item that has less than 30% CFR or in-stock rate. So we wanted to track what is the loss in sales if an item has stock dropped from 90% to less than 30%.
There's a tie between C and D. More answers coming in, and
oh, sorry, yeah. I just just want to get moving along. But yeah, C is the right answer. It is 42%. Although we believe, from where I sit, we believe it's more than that. So people guessing 50 might be right too, because there's an impact that we don't. Are not able to track immediately, which is lost households. So if someone was buying a specific item and it's not in stock anymore, they'll switch to another brand and then they will remain loyal to them forever. So yeah, a big impact on this one. So this was good. And it's a good segue for us to talk about the e-commerce grocery playbook. So this, in my world, this is something that we talk about a lot, surprisingly, because there is no playbook. People are making rules to suit their portfolio, their brands, the retailers that they work with, their budgets, and their financial goals. So for some, the financial goal would be to just keep increasing sales. For some, profitability is important. So it really depends on what the company's financial goal is to build this playbook, and everyone is doing differently. It's very dynamic. But there are some keywords and topics that are the baseline for any CPG grocery brand or retailer. So what are these pain points? First, inventory. We just talked about this. Out of stock is the trouble child of this world that no one wants, but ends up getting and hating more than the last time they had it. So there is a disproportionately negative impact online because the items that go out of stock simply lose their search ranking. So when they're back in stock, when they're back online, they're treated like brand new items. So we need to put extra money and give them time to get their search ranking back up. It's a big problem area. Next, margin. This is tight in the world of e-commerce because of packaging, fulfillment, additional labor and resource costs. So increasing basket size, making sure there are more items in a basket, more items in a box is more important than ever to account for that loss in margin. Data. In this day and age, there's no problem retrieving data, but the problem lies in sharing the data with the brands, especially small scale suppliers, new CPGs who cannot afford to pay these huge amounts of money to a third party retailer to access data. So how can they get smart about understanding their shopper, targeting their shoppers if data is not available to them? And lastly, choice. From a consumer's lens, if a consumer is shopping at a third-party retailer like Instacart or GoPuff, they want the ability to choose their retailer. So if they are a Walmart shopper, a Kroger shopper, or a Food Lion shopper, they want that option to be there when they're browsing or shopping on a third-party retailer, and that's not often the case. So that is another problem for a lot of retailers. So when we talk about overcoming these problems and building a solution, we can focus on three big areas. So shopper insights, strong digital strategy, and then investment in right technology. Shopper insights. As I just mentioned, there is no shortage of data. Retailers have been collecting shopper data with their loyalty cards for decades. They have so much more data than they even need at this point. So how can they effectively utilize this data in this new space called e-commerce? Which is why it's important to unlock the data and look at these two elements separately. So look at the online engagement, which includes browsing history, which can be captured by search, something that the in-store purchase history cannot provide. So someone is shopping in a store, walking through the aisles, we don't know what they are shopping for. But in the online space, browsing history is a big advantage that, that can be captured with the data that we have just by looking at search history. Online data can also unlock digital engagement with display ads, online offsite ads, on-site offsite ads, social media campaigns, email, to show what type of messaging and creative are people interested to see. So again, this is not something we can easily capture from in-store data. There are a lot of displays when you go to a grocery store, but it's much more easier to know with the online engagement by click-throughs, by impressions and clicks, what is it that a customer is more interested to see. So there's a lot of power in online data, but not to ignore in-store behavior. Whenever we say in-store, it's purely a retail, a big box building where people just shop online. There's no online interaction. So there's a lot of data captured from that, and that's primarily what is a customer buying. So when they use their card at the checkout counter, it's purely what they bought. So there's a lot of power in that as well, because that eliminates all the noise that the digital space offers by ads and all. So we use that data a lot more closely to capture some of this rudimentary market basket analysis. So if someone bought X item, they also bought Y item with it. And just to share a quick example, something that we saw with our analysis is we noticed a lot of shoppers who buy our frozen snacks and meals also buy refrigerated eggs. Now, refrigerated eggs are catching up in the U.S. market. So it's basically a scrambled eggs frozen or refrigerated, and you just crack an egg with the mix, and it's all ready to go. So this is something we could not have predicted, but just looking at the in-store behavior, we learned that. Both of these two elements together are important to create an online experience that solves customers' problem. But there are still some gaps that we should try to solve with shopper insights. How can we get across the fresh experience? People still want that smell, that aroma, that ambience that you see, get in an in-store. how can you get that online? So one of the big problems to solve for that a lot of companies are trying to solve for, and there are a lot of ways to go about it, meal solutions, showing recipes, showing meal solutions is one way to go about it, but still a lot of opportunity there. Where are the products sourced from, and what's the lead time for getting them delivered to the customer? So you go to in-store, you can quickly look at the packaging, where is this product made in? Is it made here locally, or is it imported? Anything that someone may need to know. And then they know that they can immediately grab it and go. Online, it may be different. It could either be a pickup option, it could be delivery that may take longer, and then it could be an Amazon type ship to home, can take a week. So understanding that, giving that clarity to the consumer, making it easier for them, using the insights is also key. And lastly, how can we ensure that there is a platform syndication in situation where different providers are running different parts of the ordering and fulfillment process? Example, if a grocer has a place where shoppers can custom design cakes at the bakery, the back end of the area might be run by a different provider than the rest of the site. So these are the type of solutions that a lot of companies are already working on, and some grocers are also investing in. So a lot of things to capture here, but this is just one of the three elements. So I'll quickly, let me pause here really quick because I can't see chat, but if anyone has questions on this slide or anything before this, I can quickly address.
There's one question on the chat.
Yeah.
I'll quickly read out. Nikita asks, what is the difference between online engagement and in-store behavior?
Good question. So like I talked about, so online engagement is, think of me as a shopper trying to do my weekly run of groceries. I'm just going to go to the app of the retailer that I normally buy from. Or I can be sitting at home watching Facebook, and I get a pop-up in Facebook. They've targeted me somehow that, your groceries are due, or you're due for a grocery run to your retailer. So I click on the ad. If it's a specific, say, mac and cheese item that I would typically buy, click on that ad. It will take me to the website or the app where I typically buy. So I am in the app now. And then I click on items. So I added mac and cheese. Now I want to also add some eggs or some milk or some produce. And then I also start seeing ads saying, if you're buying bread, why not buy cheese as well, or butter as well? And there will be some CPG who has paid for that ad, and I will be taken to that specific brand's page where I can see their products. So that's like one example of online engagement. So there's a lot of ways. All of this is tracked. All of this is tracked by the media agencies, by the digital media. So this is one part of the data world where we can look at shopper behavior with the online engagement. So click, these exposure to different ads outside of your just normal shopping path. And then in-store behavior is purely what you purchased in store. So there is a lot of analysis that can come out of it, but it's mostly product focused. It's not so much shopper focused. It'll be if someone bought an X product, they also bought Y product. It doesn't really tell us if the shopper is a millennial or if the shopper is anything that that an online engagement can tell us in terms of which other website are they using. So they're simply in the store, they have come to buy a specific set of things, and they purchase that and they go back. So it's very the biggest difference here is understanding shopper behavior, which can be more prevalent in the online engagement, and then the product behavior is more easily readable by the in-store behavior. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's how I'm looking at this.
Okay, there's another question from Prasad. Prasad, do you want to pick that up?
Yeah, sure. Hey, hi, Jasleen. Thanks for the presentation and the questions. I think great exercise around the guesstimate. But I wanted to ask, you mentioned like, the fresh experience aspect of this. So like, what are some of the interesting ideas that you have come across in your like journey of understanding e-commerce better, which sort of did a great job of providing that real and personal experience to the customers while they were shopping online? Was I clear?
Yes, you're Prasad, good question. You're already in the future because that's where everyone's minds are. All the executives and the senior leadership, that is the biggest question, one of the biggest questions that they're trying to unlock. We're putting a lot of money, investment in technology in the digital space. There's a lot of media, money that goes in there, but still there's this gap. So one of the things that I have seen that seems to be working for some folks is recipes and video recipes. So one example, have you guys heard about Tasty? Tasty is a social media channel. It's called Tasty. So what they do is basically they make videos of recipes, and they are very like, you'd want to eat the food that they're cooking right in front of you because it's very appealing the way they make those videos. So there are a lot of retailers that are partnering with Tasty and companies like Tasty that make these videos. And when you're trying to buy something, so more and more people are just sitting home and just scrolling through, their phone. So there's a lot of opportunity. Showing that video in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, these are the channels where customers are spending most of their time, and showing them these recipes, and then also calling out the brands. So these are typically brand sponsored most of the time. So, Kraft Heinz, for example, we have more than 45 brands under our umbrella. So we would mix a couple of items together, like, hot dogs and just a hot dogs and bun. How can you make it like 4 different ways? It's a very simple thing. It doesn't even need like cooking, but there'll be
DIY
ways to
stuff.
there'll be ways to show that. So video, recipes, and then sampling. It's a little bit different way to go about this, but sampling is picking up. So digital sampling, what happens is, again, shoppers get the option to pick some items that they would like to try, and you get a box with different samples. Now, this may not be truly fresh. It's not fresh yet. It's mostly packaged goods that are offered in sampling. But if I was to predict future and see something like this, I would place my bets on it, that this could be something that can happen in the future, where there is some smart way of presenting a more fresh food at someone's doorstep with a sample.
Right. I mean, right now the challenge must be around how do you make it real time when it comes to sampling, I guess, because obviously,
Yes.
if I want to sample something right now, it doesn't make sense if it gets delivered a week later. So
So that's a good point, and those will be the type of challenges that we'll have to overcome. But I will tell you this: there are companies, you probably may have heard of it, but there are companies who are going for 10-minute delivery, 15-minute delivery. It's a company called Joker. So anything is possible. I mean, I would not have ever thought that could be achievable, but they're doing it. So that's a good point. But how do you do it? I think that's going to be the big question.
Right. Thank you. That answers my question.
Yeah, good. Thanks. I have 2 more slides. I can go through them and then I can address all the questions if that works for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Then the next one, hopefully this is a slide you guys like, and feel free to give feedback. But digital strategy is the key, because digital strategy drives digital growth. It is where all the money and the brains sit. So before building a digital strategy, it's important to understand customer experience. And in e-grocery, there have been multiple changes to consumer experience. And I'll quickly go through some of these customer experience changes. So in store, while we expect digital penetration to continue to grow, an in-store experience will never be erased. There will always be a store if a retailer wants to hold up their brand. So it'll be, that's number one. That's something to always keep in mind whenever building a customer experience, a digital strategy around customer experience. Next is omni-channel customer engagement. I just talked about this. A lot of you may already be familiar with a 360 multi-touch attribution model that can be at the epicenter of an omni-channel engagement. So, it starts with someone seeing an ad on TV on a specific brand, say a new type of mac and cheese came out. I don't know if mac and cheese is that big. Let me pick a better example. Ketchup. Let's just go with simple ketchup. A new type of ketchup that came up. You saw an ad on TV. A few minutes later or a few days later, you saw an ad show up on your Facebook or social media. You click on it and you try to explore the website, but you still don't decide to buy it. Then again, you see you're checking a recipe on some other product and you see that ad again show up. So you will see the same ad or the same product being featured in different stages of your product exploration journey, where you don't even realize you're exploring the product, but there are people who are tracking you. They are tracking your touch and attributing that to your holistic numbers when they track the results. So that's going to be a big thing. So there is going to be engagement. How we track it is going to be important. T-commerce or touchless commerce is fairly new. Customers want to know where their goods are coming from, who has interacted with their grocery purchases, who has touched their produce. So tracking that info in product content featured on site and on the packaging is going to be important. Unified commerce is also new. This is a connected approach where connecting customer data and product data can allow for a more personalized customer experience, better forecasting and replenishment algorithms, and just high customer satisfaction. And lastly, emphasis on local ties. This one is interesting. Consumers, especially millennials and Gen Z, put a high priority on supporting their local communities. So highlighting that in your product display pages, highlighting that in ads would be very important as well. So keeping this in perspective, a digital strategy will be twofold. So a lot of data dump here, but I'll try to make it easier for you to digest this. Digital media. Retailers have an enormous opportunity to build a digital media business by leveraging their e-commerce site and their apps as assets. And retailers are already primed to host sponsored content from CPG partners. So according to eMarketer, the CPG industry, CPG or FMCG for all packaged goods, this industry is expected to grow its digital ad spend by more than 5%. So more companies are planning to spend more money in this space. They just want more high returns. So there's a lot of opportunity for both retailers to utilize this digital media platform and take a share of that growth in spend. Now, retailers can also expect 1 to 4% of their e-commerce sales to flow through digital media. So this is, again, for retailers or for the grocers, this is, right off the gate, straight out of the gate, it's pretty easy money if they set this digital media platform. And lastly, retailers can lean in on this digital media platform. They can offset their software license fees and improve their path to profitability. So there is a lot of power in digital media. Right now, there are these small retailers are leaning on third-party digital media platforms, but the idea is every retailer will have their own digital media platform where they can provide data to the brands, and then they can help us target the customers in a more effective way. Digital merchandising. It includes all the promotional strategies grocery retailers use to move products online. So to enhance performance in this space, it'll be important to, one, get digital shelf right by improving the appearance and quality of items. So think of, if you're going through a grocery store, you see an aisle, or they call it a shelf. There's a lot of science that goes into deciding what goes on the top row, what goes in bottom row, what goes next to what. There's a lot of communication and relationship with the customer that makes that happen. Not so much in the digital space. There's a lot of bidding right now in the digital space. Whoever pays more money gets their items showing up on top. But there's still opportunity to make it more knowledgeable, more scientific on what is actually a right digital shelf. So one key thing would be improving quality and content, making the products look better, making the products share the right type of information that our customers looking for in that category. Getting search right. As much as we think some retailers are smart about this, they're not. There are very few companies that are getting search right. We still don't see a lot of autocompletes. We still don't see a lot of pre-fills. It's one of the most fundamental problems to solve, but a lot of grocers are way behind. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And then rounding out the basket. This is basically offering opportunities for a shopper to make impulse purchases by, when they're in the cart, asking them, did you forget this? And offering items that they may like, or items that they've purchased in the past and they would need a refill on. And also optimizing the substitution algorithm. So this is one big problem as well. If I'm trying to buy Heinz ketchup, for example, and that item is out of stock, I would prefer a Heinz ketchup in a different size, but I would not prefer another brand's ketchup. But the retailers are still not smart about understanding that because they're not asking the customers that yet. So that would be another element to add in digital merchandising. So everything I talked about is mostly on the opportunities presented to both retailers and the brands on making a more impactful digital strategy. Okay, and then this last slide, and then I'll open it up for questions. So this is the very last but not the least important topic: investment in right technology. Tech is inevitable, but expensive. So it's important to outline certain goals before delving into the right kind of technology. So what are the goals? Why would companies want to spend millions of dollars in technology? The customer wants streamlined delivery. They want everything faster. The companies, as this world is growing, e-commerce, shopping, grocery business is growing, they do not have enough labor to invest in warehousing, so they need robots. Customers also need location tracking. They want, or in this case, retailers need location tracking. If I'm going for pickup, they need to know I'm closer to the store. How close am I to the store, so they can optimize that process. Transport tracking. If I'm getting a delivery on groceries, I want to know where that truck is, how soon it's going to come. Autonomous delivery vehicles. This is a new space, more futuristic. We've not seen a lot of results yet, but this could be another area where, autonomous, like driverless vehicles going and dropping delivery in a neighborhood, for example. And lastly, the ultimate goal: cost reduction and high efficiency. So there's a lot of economies of scale to be utilized in this space. It takes time, but the ultimate goal is this will improve profitability by reducing cost and high efficiency. So just a couple of things. I have a bunch of pictures here. Lockers, a lot of companies are utilizing locker system where these are like refrigerated setups where they would just, these will be placed in different parts of the city, and the retailers will fill these up with the online orders, and there's a nice system to pick your order up from there. Drones, so a few companies have started looking into this space as well. How can drones be utilized for delivery? This is a company called Neuro that a big retailer, Kroger, had partnered with. So it is one of the autonomous delivery vehicles. There's no driver; it just goes on its own. It was tested in San Fran in one of the in a very small area on the West Coast. So still in the testing phase, but looks pretty exciting. This is a multi-order pallet system. So basically, in your warehouse, typically the orders are not mixed up on a pallet, but that could be one of the ways to tackle some of the warehousing problems that companies are seeing. And lastly, the biggest one is these customer fulfillment centers. So there are these small robots, those red boxes you see there, just small robots. And in that green building with the green cover here there's basically all groceries sitting in a place called Hive. So these robots will be moving in a grid and will be collecting the grocery, putting them in bags, and then fulfilling orders. So a lot of companies are targeting for more and more automation in this space. And they are testing out so far, seeing a lot of good results from some of the numbers that have been shared publicly, but that seems a very exciting space as well. So a lot of information, I hope not too terribly too much. So at this point, I will stop and listen for your questions.
Thanks, Jasleen. A lot of wonderful insights. There are a couple of questions on the chat as well.
Do you want me to stop sharing and I can just open up?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The first question is from Nikita. And she wants to ask, are there any efforts in making in-store experience real by using AR or VR?
I have heard about it. It's not as big yet, but this I'm pretty sure this is something that could be part of future. So, Nikita, you're already you're also with Prasad living in the future. So this is this could be a good opportunity. I know this is for a very niche audience, so it may not be as scalable, but there have been a lot of things that have been for a niche audience and not scalable, and they've worked. So definitely a big potential opportunity.
Right. There's one more question from Nikita. Nikita, do you want to pick that up?
Subscription model?
Yeah, subscription model. She wants to ask, it's not very exploited, right? So why is that?
Yes, that's another good question. I know Amazon is using a subscription model, so they run a subscribe and save models and items, and then some so can you just clarify, are you referring to like a subscribe and save model, or more like a subscription with a specific retailer, say pay $100 a year and you get free delivery, something like that?
Yeah, so it's mostly through Indian context that the experience that I have. Like my mother buys grocery every month, so she has certain number of stores that are there in particular location, and she has a tie-up with them. So every month they would send grocery to us, right? So is there anything that like there is no such experience on e-commerce platform, right? In any store. So like, are there any such subscription models in online?
Yes. So that's the one that Walmart in US is utilizing and leaning on most heavily. They have seen a lot of success. So they have I think it's $100, $99 a year, and you get free delivery. So you pay a premium to the grocer, and then you get free delivery, unlimited free delivery. Not all retailers are trying this. It is an expensive model for the company, but for someone like Walmart, who is a giant in this space, it's not as negatively cost impact effective. So this is definitely something companies are thinking about and has been exploited. So I'm guessing it may be coming soon. I think Amazon has tried subscription, not sure how successful it is. Yeah, like I said, it's expensive for grocers if there is not a lot of value or return ROI in that model. They will not get into it, which is why it's taking some retailers. There are some national retailers in the US that have taken forever to decide if they want to get into the space. Some have still not. So it's all about the cost. Just hope that helps, Nikita.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much for your answer. It was very good.
Awesome. The next question is from Ria. Ria, do you want to pick it up?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, thank you so much, Jasleen. Thoroughly enjoyed the presentation, really well. So with the quiz part and the facts that you kind of presented, really great. So my question is mostly inverted toward where you mentioned that, how digital merchandising, there's a gap in digital merchandising when it comes to the sensory human habitudes, like smell of the producers and the touch and feel of these producers. So what do you think AI would be replacing it, or kind of invention would come into this place, or like how does digital merchandising look forward to fill this gap, or are we inventing something? What is the strategy going in that kind of field? Yeah.
So I think something like this is what companies may start thinking about at least 10 years from now. And that is because they have still not unlocked some of the basic problems with digital merchandising. So like I said, search, digital shelf strategy, cart checkout, rounding out the basket. All of those are basic problems that companies are still struggling to find. I definitely can visualize AI to be a part of this solution where these sensory human habitudes could be addressed. But at this point, from at least the level of research that I have done, and I would say I've done pretty extensively, at least in more recent past, I have not seen any discussion or invention around that. But that's not to say that there are companies not trying to solve for that problem, because that is a problem and that is a gap. So I can see slowly but surely companies rising up with more AI-driven solutions. But it's just that realistically, retailers are actually much more behind than what we would think in terms of solving their digital merchandising space. So it may take a while before they actually adopt this.
Right. Just an extension to what you said. So I always feel like there should be a natural balance, like with technology, the human touch, that kind of balance. So is it possible to fill this gap? Maybe human and technology could somewhere meet in the midway, and then somewhere we could go forward in the future, adapting the digital merchandising, and not trying to push AI so much and trying to like do completely 100%. Technology kind of thing. Do you think maybe that could kind of, we could think about something like that, like meet midway?
Yeah, so one of the things I can think about is, people still like to go to in-store. They don't want to spend 1 hour shopping, going through all the aisles. They would say like they want to go to the bakery section because that's something that would be very unique to a store. A lot of products are now starting utilizing QR codes on their products or brands. And it could also be for maybe not really fresh product, but something that is packaged like a cake, for example. You go look at it. If you can smell it, you smell it and you like it. You just take the QR code and you scan it and you purchase it. So there could be like that type of a balance. It's still a little bit backward. It's not as futuristic, but I think QR codes is the new place where brands especially are trying to look into to fill that gap, where customers can just quickly scan it and just add it to their cart and take it. So yeah, not perfect answer to your problem.
Answers my question. Definitely answers my question. Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
The next question is from Vibhor. Over to you, Vibhor.
Hi, Jasleen. Indeed, a very engaging talk. Love the questions in the middle of the presentation. My question basically revolves around how do you draw parallels between the grocery market in US, which is very mature now, I think like 50% of the population, and compare that to what can be the best practices that we can bring to India. And like the second half of it would be that how do you think the user expectations vary? Like I remember one point that you mentioned somewhere that faster delivery is something that is always a user wants. But when I think of India, we always have pre-planned grocery list, right? Like someone was saying like the mother was planning the grocery for a month. So do you think the user expectations vary while thinking of grocery deliveries?
Absolutely. So let me take your first half of the question. I'll be honest, I haven't done a lot of research in the Indian grocery delivery business market, but I'm pretty sure it's not as mature as you mentioned. I think one of the things that drove the US shoppers to adopting this was COVID. They were forced to stay at home. There was a lockdown. They literally could not go. And there were a lot of people who were more susceptible to getting the virus. So especially the older age, we call them baby boomers here. So they were the biggest adopters of online pickup and delivery. Now, when they used this for about 2 to 3 months, they realized that and even people like us, I started using online pickup right around that time. And I realized there's so much time I can save. Once people realize that, I think you cannot force someone to try pickup and delivery, especially in a space like this where an in-store experience is so much better. But once you try it, once you see value in convenience, it's the same cost. It's free pickup, and I'm getting the convenience. I save so much time. People are actually now thinking about having a solution where people will actually, if you have grocery delivered right in front of your door, there'll be someone coming and putting it in your fridge. And there has been tests around that as well. So it's like, how can we reduce our time on doing things like this and spend time on doing more productive things? So I believe that could be, right now from what I remember, at least India, I do not think we ever saw that lockdown phase. Or I know there are a lot of street hawkers, or like the more of the produce is bought on the streets. Like it's not really going to a store as much. Mm-hmm. So it will definitely be slower than a more developed country like US, simply because everything is bought in one building in US versus in India. But yeah, in terms of user expectation, I think it will really depend on how you show that advantage to the customer or to the shopper. Now, this model of pickup and delivery is the future. It may take much longer in a more developing country like India, but it has to happen at some point, especially, as millennials, like our generation, and even the next Gen Z generation is adopting all these online platforms. For them, convenience and saving time is one of the big factors. So I guess that when they start utilizing this, it'll get more part of the day-to-day. So again, I believe looking at some of the comments here, Amazon is fairly big in India compared to some of the other retailers, so that there may be a good start.
Yeah.
But yeah, I may have to do some more research to understand how can actually how can Indian market adopt some of this. I do believe I heard at some point there are certain companies that have an Instacart sort of setup where you can buy groceries and they allow you to check the retailer at the checkout. That may be in an initial stages, but I'm sure it's going to catch up very soon.
As you mentioned, like COVID also accelerated the grocery deliveries here. Like we have quite a few companies that have mushroomed after, even like before they existed, but the adoption has rates have increased quite a lot for it, especially in the tier 1 cities.
Yeah.
So, yeah, people are valuing convenience for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
The next question is from Seth. We just have like 2 more questions. It's a working day for you, by the way, right? I mean, you just have to.
Ideally, it would have been, but I'm off because we have a long weekend. So
okay.
I can go over it. Yeah.
Okay, we'll just like extend it for like a few more minutes.
Yeah.
The next question is from Seth. Seth, do you want to pick it up?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Ria. So yeah, thank you, Jasleen, for the great session. So I mean, it was nice. So coming back to question directly, like I want to understand, like since I mean you mentioned like more than 50% of US population is using, they are going for the e-grocery, right? So I wanted to understand like what, as per your opinion, like what are the current, what are the major gaps in the current e-grocery environment there?
Yes, the biggest gaps are stock issue, inability to find something online is a bigger problem in the e-grocery world from a brand point of view. So if someone is a supplier, a CPG company, if they don't have supply, so let me just share an example so that this might paint a better picture. If suppose there are 100 items of a particular SKU available in one store, and 100, and typically that store would carry say 500 items of that SKU, it's roughly 20% in stock rate is how the retailer would calculate that as. 20% is considered very low for online, for the online metric, and they would just filter that out. They would remove that item from the online placement. So the e-commerce world, the digital space is being, like I said, disproportionately impacted because there is supply in store, but they will just not put it online because there's always a delay. Like I would put an order now for a pickup later this evening or tomorrow morning. So they don't want to take that risk because those 100 items will go out of stock from today evening. So that's one big challenge there, and I keep bringing that up because no one has found the solution. Both retailers and brands are struggling. Supply is always a big issue. There are worldwide labor shortages. You may be aware of. There are manufacturing plants are closed down. There are a lot of, because of certain climate change impacts on certain parts of the world, we are unable to fulfill some of the raw materials. So there is like a never-ending supply chain problem that will always exist. So we still haven't figured that out. I think that would be number one. And then, digital merchandising. I think I talked about this a little bit more. We still don't know how to sell the right thing to the customer. We know that they, say if I buy only organic items, I go to milk, search, I only picked up organic. If I now go try to search eggs, the platform should be smart enough to show me eggs, organic eggs, but it will not. It's still many steps behind. Even companies like Amazon, who are the smartest in the search space, they still haven't achieved that yet. So there's a lot of innovation and optimization opportunities in this digital world that a lot of folks are aware of, but they still haven't gotten to, just because of these basic problems like supply, substitution, digital shelf, are getting the content live on the site. Some of these big basic problems have not been solved yet. So in my opinion, that would be some of the key pain points in e-grocery. But there are a lot of different types of pain points for a lot of people who are sitting in different parts, in different departments in this world. For executives, it's more like profitability. How can we make it more profitable? Where should we invest? But like for me, from my position, from growing sales, these are some of the problems that are, like, we call them low-hanging fruit, but they're not really low-hanging fruit because people still haven't figured it out.
Got it.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Jasleen.
Okay, the next question is from Hansi. Hansi, do you want to pick it up? Or yeah, the question is basically, what factors do we take into consideration while we decide to use?
Just looking at.
Sorry. Yeah. So when you spoke about tech, you put down like the goals that you wanted to achieve, but you also mentioned that tech was super important and we can't make do without it. So in terms of except price, what other factors would you take into consideration when you're actually going ahead and choosing that technology?
That's a $1 million question, no pun intended, but it's one of the big problems. Now, I showed you like an example of drones. That's one option that companies are trying to look into. In my mind, that's the wildest of the tech options, just because it's not scalable. You can't have 100 drones flying around delivering groceries. But I think the way companies are approaching this is looking at what the consumer wants, right? They just want to. A lot of consumers, at least in the US, they want everything delivered to them at the least amount of money that they can spend. For a retailer to not charge money to the end user, they have to make their own model profitable, more cost efficient. So as much as we want to take finance out of the equation, it will always be at the center of decision making on what is the best way to go. So when I talked about drones, that's just one option that some companies are looking into as one of the ways to address consumer demand. So if someone is living at the top floor of a building who is very sick and really cannot even go downstairs all the way down and pick up deliveries, they are willing to pay that premium to get their groceries delivered in their balcony or patio or wherever they want with a drone. And those type of technologies are meant to address those type of consumer demands. So what factors are into considerations? Like I said, finance is at the center, then also looking at what the consumer wants, convenience, what is the price they're willing to pay for that convenience. And then also, like I talked about touchless e-commerce, customers, a shopper doesn't want someone else touching their grocery. I mean, yeah, the one person who's delivering it to them, fine, but they don't want 100 people touching it who are also touching the machines and the robots and the warehousing. So building a model that also takes into account automation that is touchless, that is attributable, every item it should be accounted for when you look at the in-stock supply chain. So there's like multiple factors that I can't even put together in this response, but those would be most critical outside of finances, what a consumer wants. And then also doing, again, this is also part of finance, but doing a profitability analysis for the next 5 to 10 years, where will our company be if we invest X amount of dollars in something. One other thing is new markets. So a lot of companies are, like I talked about, the micro fulfillment centers. This is like a big shed. It looks like from outside, it looks like a store, but inside you really cannot get inside that store and shop. So companies are utilizing this model to get into new markets. So one example is Kroger. Kroger is one of the top national retailers in the US, and they do not have a presence in Florida. And they know that Florida typically has a lot of people who are living post-retirement. So they have lived in other parts of the country, but they retired in Florida because it's warmer, and everyone wants to live in a warm place. So there are people who live there who used to shop at Kroger, but they don't have Kroger there anymore. So Kroger identified that as a new market, and they decided to invest into a shed or a micro fulfillment center that will offer delivery services to these shoppers. So also looking at, like I said, consumer demand, and also where is this potential consumer living. So looking at the geographies and the demographics and all of that is also one of the factors that they look into when investing. Hope that helps, Hansi.
Yeah, sure.
Yep, thank you.
Awesome. So is there any other question from the audience, apart from the ones on chat?
I will
okay.
say I'm very impressed by the type of questions, and really excited to see some of the interest in this space. I have some homework to do to go see how this market is booming up in India. Now I'm curious. So definitely very, very knowledgeable for me as well.
I have a question, Jasleen. Hi, Jasleen.
Hi.
For the long, I have lived in Oman for most part of my life, and I've always related hens and craft to cheese and ketchup as a part of Pizza Hut and everything.
Yeah.
So, but Oman is a country where it has a very less literacy level. So finding out, the data from cache and from search histories is out of the question, which I feel. So in those countries, how do you pursue the customers to, actually go and buy hens as a ketchup or other products from hens?
Very good question. So these brands like Heinz and Kraft and a lot of these big CPG brand manufacturers, they do a lot of research into their target customer audience. So they profile their shoppers. So our shopper is so for example, for Heinz ketchup is pretty common. So I'll pick another example. Say one of the Heinz barbecue sauce. The shopper is a millennial or a Gen X person, mostly male, who is between age group 25 to 40, who does a lot of barbecuing and would go straight away to a Kraft barbecue sauce or a Heinz barbecue sauce for their purchase. So a lot of that back-end research that is done before even positioning the product into the market plays a big role in places like these, like Oman, where there is not a lot of shopper data that we can collect. That is one thing. Second is a lot of the learnings from similar markets where there is data accessibility and learning from data could be utilized in a market like Oman. So it's not so much of just looking at the place where we're selling in, but it's also learning from other avenues, other retailers, other brands, and other locations, and utilizing those learnings and pushing that in this new market. There are also a lot of test and learn. So this industry, there's no set rule or a set defined shopper profile. It keeps changing. So there are a lot of A/B tests that we can do. If it's like a brand new market where we have no clue how the customer will respond, say if you decide to sell something in North Korea, which will not happen, but if you have no clue on how the market is going to respond, you do A/B tests. I'm sure a lot of you here may be familiar with that, but that is also one way to understand which of the two experiences is returning higher results. So different ways to go about it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jasleen. That answers my question.
Great.
So many interesting insights and so many takeaways from the day's session, Jasleen. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for putting in so much effort into the whole presentation, to be honest. And
I loved it. I mean, I love the questions, like I said. So and I can share the deck too if anyone wants it. I'll send it to you, Ria, and then you can share it with the team.
Sure, that would be great. Thank you so much. And is there any parting note, like before you leave, before we call it a day for everyone out here?
No, I mean, I just, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and keep asking questions, because I really liked the questions that came, very high quality questions. And I will also look at your profiles and see what you guys are doing, and reach out to you if I have any questions. So let's stay in touch. This is an ever evolving industry. Like I said, I'm no expert, also learning along the way, but more than happy to share what I'm seeing working with the people that I work with, both internally and externally, and sharing the learnings there. So, and thank you for sharing. Thank you for sparing your Friday evening with me. Hopefully you can catch some drinks or some nice food outside.
Sure.
I'm going to. It's Friday morning for me, but I'm still going to.
That's cool. Yeah, thank you so much again. So thank you so much once again. And I'm pretty sure everyone out here got a whole new different perspective on e-commerce today from your insight. Thank you so much, and see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.